Hello, my friends. My name is Samuel Savy, and this week on the show, we finish our individual player review of CF Montreal season. A lot of news was coming out of both our senior national teams, and we asked the question: is James Pantemis going to Qatar? All of that and a lot more on episode 108 of The Ball Is Round. I'm joined, as usual, by my friends Yves Paul and Hady Raphael. How's everyone today, guys?
Hanging in there. How are you, Sam?
I'm not bad. I'm not bad. Hady.
Yeah, I'm fine. It's just my internet is cutting off a bit, so that's very weird. But
Oh
yeah, it's the intro was like cutting, and I'm like, am I the only one seeing this? So
You're
no.
good,
No,
Hady.
it was normal on my end.
Perfect. Okay, so happy for that. So yeah, I'm happy. Marseille finally won. So
Yeah. They called it the Olympico, right?
yeah, the Olympico against Lyon.
Good.
So I say hi to my friend Justine that did the design of our logo. She's a Lyon supporter, so hey, Justine.
Good moment to say hi.
Exactly.
There was a few new things for us this week, guys. We started a collab with the boys from the Milan Weekly Pod. It's gonna be cool. You'll see it unfold in the future for us, but it's gonna be a nice collab with them. So shout out to them. And I wanted to talk about it quickly before we get into the show, guys, about our Patreon page that we launched, because we're not doing it in a way that we're asking people to pay, and it's always going to be free. The Ball Is Round. I think that's the identity that we always wanted to give ourselves since the very start. But we open this if anyone wants to contribute, and give us a hand in whatever they want or can give. They'll be free to do so, and there's already some of you guys who did, so we want to thank you a lot for that, because it just helps us grow our project. So it's all good. Thank you so much, everyone. Did you guys want to add anything on that, guy?
Yeah, so again, I just want to specify, we would not have any blocked content at all.
Never.
It's not going to be that. It's just that if someone is interested in helping us, just like Sam said, grow our project. Maybe we can do some fun stuff and some better stuff. Maybe improve on our some of our systems that are not really perfect. So it's just to help us out in order to continue the project and grow on it.
Exactly. So it's patreon.com/TBIR Montreal. You see everything over there. Hi, Robbie. Hi, Matthew. Guys, we'll start with a question by Simple Guy before we jump into the second part of the player review for this year. Simple Guy sent us a question, and he seems worried a bit. He asks us, are you guys hearing any rumors of any kind? The silence is really bothersome. Hope news picks up now that MLS Cup has been won. Well, no, we didn't hear anything.
I think, though, especially with the World Cup happening now, or imminently, I think a lot of players might rise to prominence, and then some departures that maybe weren't necessarily on the cards for certain teams or might be then on the cards following the World Cup. So for me, it's a little bit normal, I think, to have it quiet so far. And personally, I'm not concerned.
How do you concerned?
No, I'm not concerned either. Don't forget that there was playoffs, right? And knowing the MLS, that's a bit likes to control stuff. They make sure that during the MLS Cup week, there's no big announcements. And I know that, because, I know a lot of
rumblings.
People. Yeah, exactly. A lot of people are talking about that. So you don't make a lot of announcements during MLS Cup week. So that's normal. Second of all, there will be a lot of things that will unfold in the next few weeks, not only on the national team side, but don't forget there's the off-season calendar that starts tomorrow, with the transfer window opening for a couple of days already tomorrow. So that could lead to
Mhm.
some signings here and there. Don't forget also that the protection list has to be announced by November 10th. And that's also, as usual, creates a lot of turmoil. And of course, you have other dates like November 14th, no, November 11th with the expansion draft. We know that Montreal could lose players, and and so on and so on. You have
Mhm.
other moves that could happen. So I think from now until the World Cup, we're gonna see some movement. I'm pretty sure. Now, is it gonna be interesting or not? That we don't
Yeah.
know yet.
Mhm.
Yeah, no, for sure. We'll talk about the expansion
Yeah.
draft a bit later because Justin Furtado sent us the question, but I kept it for a bit later in the show, guys.
Okay.
So let's jump right into the review because we started last week. I think we went through 9 players, and it was very simple the way we did it. We're looking for a grade out of 10, if the player will be back or not, and just a general word on their season. And everyone listening, if you want to jump in, feel free because it was really interesting last week to hear all of your input, guys.
Mhm.
So, like we did last week, I'm gonna assign a player to each of you. You're gonna go down with every information you have to give, and if as one of us is not on the same page as you, we can jump in afterwards and give our opinion. So,
Mhm.
Eve, we'll start with you and Rudy Camacho. So, the center back played 30 games. He started all 30, 2,650 minutes, 1 goal, 33 fouls committed, 7 yellow cards. No red for Rudy this year.
Mhm.
38 tackles, 54 interceptions. Rudy is under contract for another year, and there's no talk about options in his contract. So, Eve, go ahead.
So I think it was another good season for Rudy Camacho. He obviously re-signed with Montreal really late in preseason, so he did get out of the blocks a little on the slow side. And especially early in the season, there was so much to manage with Champions League plus MLS competition. So early season it wasn't as amazing as it had been last year, but I think he grew as the season went on and found a form similar to what he played with throughout much of 2021. I think he was a really, really pivotal part of that 3-man backline, and having that consistency with usually, Miller, Camacho, and Waterman. I think was really good for the just the whole back line and everything
Mhm.
going forward as well, especially when the goalkeeping situation was concerning
Yeah.
to say the least. But overall, I think that no red cards is a big improvement on his past seasons already. So I'm gonna give him a 7.5 out of 10.
Okay. I guess he's going to be back next year because,
Yeah.
anyways, he's locked in under
Yeah,
contract.
I'm categorically assuming he's back next year. I assume.
Hady.
I have nothing to add. She said everything. I agree with everything that Eve said. Yes, it happens.
Finally.
No, but he's the general of our defense. It's as
Yeah.
simple as that. So yeah, no, 7.5 is a great. I think he grew in confidence within the season, like after a rocky start. Nothing more to add. It's a bit of the backbone of the team,
Yeah.
and that's going to be very important for next year.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. And you see, Matthew gives Camacho 7 and Robbie gives Camacho 7. So, Eve, you were a bit more positive than
Oh
our
my
friends,
goodness.
Matthew
Oh
and
yeah,
Robbie.
it happens
Yeah.
too.
Yeah, it happens too. So, there's a lot of milestones today we
Exactly.
got going. Hadi, you're up next with Joaquin Torres. 28 games played, 15 starts, 1,320 minutes, 3 goals, 2 assists, 22 shots, 13 fouls committed, 30 fouls suffered, 3 yellow cards. Torres is under contract for another year, then has 2 option years that are, as always in MLS, the team's option and other players. So, Hadi, go ahead.
Okay, so I'm gonna give my grade first. I will give him a 5 out of 10. Also, I would like to see him stay for next year because he doesn't cost too much. He's if we, I know that it's not 100% accurate, the salaries that we see from the MLSPA, but if you look at what he's being paid, 280,000, which is I think an okay salary for a rotation player. Um, the problem with Torres is that he was, he had some good games, but unfortunately, sometimes he wants to do too much with the ball.
Yep.
He tries to do too much. He tries to dribble a lot too much. He tries to that extra touch that's always not a good idea. When it works, it's amazing. When it doesn't, it really breaks up plays.
And it doesn't work most of the time.
And it doesn't. It worked a lot, at the beginning of the season. It was very good,
Yeah,
but
he did well
for
at the
like
start.
for like 5-10 games, and then he disappeared completely.
Last year was the same thing, eh?
Yeah, exactly. So for me, he stays because I like this type of player to stay in a club, because you never know when you're going to need that player that's a bit technical, that's going to slow up play a bit. So I think that's a good tool to have for a coach. So I would keep him, and he doesn't cost too much. And I think this year is going to be important to see if we activate those 2 option years or not. So
Yeah.
so yeah, no, I would keep him, but 5 out of 10.
Okay, so for you, 5 out of 10, and he's back next year. Eve.
Yeah. I don't know. Like, it's kind of like you said, Hady. It feels a little bit like he's not learning. And I'm not sure what guidance the coach is giving him in training sessions and stuff. So maybe Nancy's be like, oh yeah, definitely, try that touch. It's bound to come off because it hasn't worked the last 3 matches. So you're due for, I truly don't know. But it kind of feels like he doesn't learn necessarily. Yeah, like Robbie has said here, a lot of movement, but no results.
Yeah.
So I almost think 5 is a shade generous, but I will say, like, when he goes out, it looks like he's working hard, even though it's not necessarily producing any result. Like, I don't think he's going out there and like half-assing it or anything like that.
It's
the
execution
learning,
the problem.
yeah,
for Torres. It's not effort. It's not.
Yeah.
It's execution, because what struck me a lot is that Nasi tried to create a chemistry between Camara and Torres, and it just never worked out. And Camara would have chemistry with anyone within like 10 minutes of playing with him. And Torres, they tried it. You just weren't able to find themselves on the pitch. And Camara, you would see during the game, was trying to almost coach Torres. When I'll go up for the header, I'm gonna flick the ball this side, be there, and he was the other side every time, and it was just not working, man.
Yeah, there's also a couple of things that I would add. First of all, there's a clash of cultures with Joaquin Torres. Camara is North American player, so he's used to play in MLS. It's a bit fast, a lot of counters. It goes fast, it's a one touch. It goes very fast. And whilst Joaquin Torres, is the kind of the Latino players would dribble, take time, look, take the time to look at what's going on. It's not a fast paced game, so he needs to learn the North American game, and that's going to be very important. The second thing that I would add is that the reason why I would keep him, we don't know what's going on with Nancy, of course. Another coach comes. We could go back in a 4-2-3-1, and then he could be a very good player in a 4-2-3-1. So in the actual system of Wilfried Nancy, yes, he has a very small role to play, but he does have a role. But in other systems, he could be a very important piece. So for me, it's a player that you would want to keep.
Interesting. Cool. And Robbie and Matthew give Torres a 5 as well. So for now, everyone pretty much on the same page. Let's see if it will change with Lassi Lapalainen, who played 30 games. He started 28. He played 2,103 minutes. 3 goals, 5 assists, 23 shots, 1 yellow card, 44 tackles, and 14 interceptions. He has 2 more contract years, then an option for 2025. Lassie is my player. I'll give Lassie. I'll give him an 8, and I'll explain why. Because it's a very good grade, and
Yep.
um, at the start of the year, we were really critical of Lassie, and I just think that Lassie wasn't necessarily the problem. Is he was just put in a position that he was learning, and it's very tough for him to learn on the fly during games. So for sure there was a lot of learning in training, but you're never as exposed as when you're out there against opposition. So a tough assignment for Lassie, because yes, he was advertised as a left winger, but playing as a left wing back, and a lot of defensive responsibilities at the start. Nasi kind of took some away from him as the season went by, but difficult to tackle on your off foot, difficult to place yourself when you're playing completely against the run of play, what you're naturally playing. So but when he did get adjusted and he started really learning that position, there was not a lot that we could complain of. Lassie's play did very well at the end of the year, and you could see the difference when either Mathieu Chouanière or Georgia Quizera went into his position. We were almost saying, yeah, it would be better with Lassie, So it speaks volumes, I think, for how well he played at the end of the year.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, Lassie, it's an 8, a very good year, in the sense that he had the task of learning a position, which most of the players in the team didn't have to do this year. They knew how to play their positions, and I think for sure he's going to be back next year. And that's about it. So guys, anything you disagree with my assessment?
No, I would just say I never thought we would have been giving such an assessment of Lassie.
Me neither.
This time last year. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm really shocked, and I think one of my favorite things about Lassie is like his lungs, his running power. Do you recall one of the last games of the season? He did a super intense sprint back to defend deep and cover the arse of the whichever play. I think it might have been Miller who was out of position. Yeah, and I was like, oh my God, Lassie. So I gotta, because I know for sure I was maybe one of the hardest on him out of the three of us. I just had no time. And so mea culpa.
Oh yeah, for sure.
The only thing I disagree with your assessment, Sam, is the grade. I think 8 is a bit too much for a first season. For me to get an 8, he should have been a more decisive up front. He should have been a bit more clinical. I think he missed too many chances. Mm-hmm. Yes, in 3 goals, I think it's in the last 10 or 12 games of the season. And beforehand, he had a lot of chances, and missing them was pretty bad. But he did improve a lot, so I would give him 7.5. I'm between Mathieu who gives 7 and Roberto that gives 7.5. So I'm between those two. That's the only thing. And but you know what? At the beginning of the season, for me, he was a 1. So so it's amazing the way he improved. He learned the position, and as Yves said, he mastered the position, and that's no small feat. So yeah, very, very, very happy for Lassie.
Good. Let's move on to, that is a hot topic this year, James Pantemis. Yves, you're up next. 13 games played, 13 starts, 1,170 minutes, 5 clean sheets. He faced 42 shots and saved 27. His contract is up right now, and he has an option for next year. And we had a poll on the Ball Is Round's Twitter page this week, and we asked people, if it was your decision only, what would be next for James Pantemis? And the 3 choices were activate the option year, sign a new contract, or thank you for the memories, which would mean that James is gone. And 58% of you guys have said that we should activate his option year. 33 were happy to see him go, and only 9% said sign a new contract. Eve, what's your take on all of that?
Ho hum. Okay, where to start? I guess I'll start with sort of Pantemis' season. Obviously, it was a rough season for Pantemis. You know, he turned down the call up for the national team during World Cup qualifying in order to regain his starting spot at training camp, and that was an unsuccessful outing. And, you know, Wilfred Nancy, you know, really stuck to his guns despite all the visible evidence showing that Sebastian Breza needed to be switched out. And then finally Pantemis came in, and it's I find it a little bit tricky to judge his season because he kind of came in and it was just so diametrically opposed to the chaos that Montreal had been living from the start of the season, that it was really hard for it not to look, you know, fantastic in comparison.
True.
And, you know, I think he was professional about it, because that must have been really difficult for him to sacrifice and then to, you know, be benched, and then watching what went on in the games where he wasn't playing, and then finally he got his chance. Anyway, where I'm going with my story is he faced 42 shots and saved 27. It's not like a super phenomenal, you know, clinical goalkeeping rate, and unfortunately we did still see some of those individual errors that led to concessions on his part. He did make lots of heroic saves, and some of the goals he conceded certainly weren't his fault by any means. Sometimes it was that the, you know, defensive player left him exposed and stuff. I'm going to give him, I think, a 6.5. It was, you know, he got the job done. Obviously, Montreal made the playoffs safely and everything like that. You know, I think he is a little bit better with his feet than Breza was. But some of the mistakes were still kind of frustrating to watch. And I don't know, you know, he's it's not his first season anymore, but at the same time, you know, coming into the season partway through cold, I want to give him a little bit of grace. And yeah, as for whether or not he'll stick around, like, my opinion is that there's got to be something a little bit fractured in that relationship, that it was so difficult for him to regain his starting spot. So I'm not sure if he'll be around next year, because I feel like it might depend on whether Nancy is or is not there. You know, I assume that would be I think if Nancy's around, I'm not sure if I really don't think Pantemis is, to be honest with you. And maybe if Nancy goes, then Pantemis can stay. I'm still not sure he's the best choice number one goalkeeper for 34, you know, MLS games though for Montreal, if they want to be elite.
Yeah. Hady.
My opinion is very different than Eve's. What a surprise, right? No, but I don't think for me, first of all, the grade is for me 5.5. I'm harsh on James Pantemis because it's time for him to stop making the mistakes that he's making. He did a lot better than Breza, and that I think we all agree on. But still, he was a bit shaky in some situations. And for me, you know, when it's your second/third year with the professional club, I think it's time that you erase those mistakes. It's time that you learn from those mistakes. And right now, he still hasn't learned. I think it's going to help him if he gets the number one spot next year and keeps it during the whole season. I do think that he's going to stay. They're going to activate his contract for 1 more year and just give him one last chance, because changing two goalkeepers, is pretty hard in MLS
Yeah,
to get,
that's
goalkeepers.
fair.
Yeah, so and we're going to talk about Nancy's pandemic situation afterwards. We have a segment on it. So yeah, so for me, 5.5, and he stays for an extra year. For me, it doesn't depend on Nancy or not. I think it's Olivier Renard that decides
Mm-hmm.
if he activates the contract or not. When I think it will be activated.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting. I think he's gonna be back on his option year too, and they're probably gonna wait until the summer break to kind of see how his performances are if he is number one. Then they'll take a decision, but they're in no rush with Pantemis because I think that the club kind of has the longer end on the stick, while negotiating with him. So they're in no rush. I think he's gonna be back next year, and independently of if Nasi is there or not,
Mm-hmm.
because that I think it's over Nasi's head, especially if there's problems right now with the front office. So yeah, they won't wait for that to be done.
Fair
So
enough.
yeah, and Robbie says 6 for Pantemis. Matthew says 6. So everyone's pretty much in the same
Mm-hmm.
range. Yeah, so let's move on. Hady, you've got another player who it might be a little controversial this year. Mason Toy, 20 games played, 8 started, 746 minutes, 2 goals, 17 shots, 1 yellow card. Mason is under contract for 2 more years and has an option for 2025, exactly like Lassie. Go ahead, Eddie.
5 out of 10.
Mm-hmm.
He stays because we haven't seen anything from Mason Toy this year. And I think there's a lot more there than in what he showed.
Oh, yeah.
We know his talent. I think that he was very disturbed by injuries, very unlucky. The problem is he's injury prone, and that's the problem. So he needs to find the reason why he's getting that many injuries. Is it his diet? Is it the way he trains? Is it that he has too much of his body? Is it, we need to find the reason behind that. And he needs to be able to learn to keep his body in shape and make sure that he doesn't get injured that much. So that's something that he needs to learn if he wants to move up to the next level. Don't forget that he has ambition to play in Europe. If he doesn't learn that, he's never going to be in Europe.
Mm-hmm.
And he's not very young anymore. I think he's 23 or 24. I'm very curious now. So I don't think he's very young anymore. So if he wants to have a successful MLS career, he needs to learn that. So that's for me why he's having 5. But I would keep him because I do believe in his abilities. I do think that he's an intelligent player. I think also that he has the willpower to learn, and I think that's something that's very hard when you had so many injuries.
Yeah.
So no, I trust him. I trust him, and
Yeah.
I want him to stay. But 5 out of 10 for 2022.
Yeah, I feel so bad for him. I really do
Me too,
because and like you said, Hady, he is injury prone. Like the injury that he picked up, say just prior to the start of the season, that was at the Big O, and I'm not sure how much is on Toei and how much is on that nasty surface. But nonetheless, I do feel really badly for him, and I agree. Like I think getting time away this off season, because it was visible watching him in the matches, how badly he wanted to score and how upset he was when his shots, missed or went wide or were saved or what have you. So it's I just feel really bad, and I hope he gets to unplug a little bit this season, in this off season rather, and then come back to preseason from scratch.
And the reason why he's going to be back too, he is under contract, but his market value must be as low as it can get for now. So
Exactly.
with the injuries, with the tough breaks, he hit the post 3-4 times on good opportunities, missed some open nets. He could have finished the season with 7 or 8 goals, but it just didn't work out. And I mean, you kind of feel for him when you see his body language get so negative during games when it's not going his way, and
Mm-hmm.
how proud and how how you know like he displays a lot of confidence when things are going well, but he displays as much negativity when things are not
Yeah.
going his way. So
Mm-hmm.
that's a bit hard to see, and I really hope that maybe you're talking about diet, you're talking about coaching. Maybe there's just a psychological
Mm-hmm.
blockage in how he attacks the game. And if you Addy, all three we get to the stadium very early before the games. I'm sure you saw Mason Toy walk alone uh,
Mm-hmm.
in his tracksuit and go in front of both nets and visualize
Yeah.
scoring, and he looks so plugged in. But sometimes you're just in too deep, and you just need to relax from all of this and just
Mm.
d- don't do that ritual. Maybe just sit in the dressing room, listen to your music a bit, just chill
Yeah.
out, and maybe it's gonna work out. Because I have the feeling that sometimes some players, when they get really deep into their head, it's counterproductive. I'm
Yeah.
not in Mason Toy's head, obviously, but
Mm-hmm.
could it be that? I
Yeah.
don't know, but there's
Definitely
definitely something.
possible.
Yeah,
But
Mm-hmm.
Nasi said a few times that he puts too much pressure on his
Yeah,
shoulders.
he's really hard on
evident,
himself.
man.
He's
Yeah,
very hard on himself, and also, he talked when he was here on the Ball is Wrong.
Mm-hmm.
He said that at one point he really wanted to train, but he was injured,
yeah,
and he made sure to find a way to maybe get him a few, shots on goal, and
Yeah.
just to satisfy him in a way, right? Because he
Mm-hmm.
was gonna be mad in case he didn't train, even if he was injured.
Mm-hmm.
I think I agree with you, Sam. I think it's a psychological thing, but I think we all agree on five
yeah, yeah,
for
yeah,
Yeah.
Mason
yeah.
Toy.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I'd like to say no, but I think that's a fair
Yeah.
assessment.
Yeah.
And Robbie gives 5, Joey 5, Maxim 4, and Matthew gives 5 and says the effort is there. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, everyone's pretty much in the same range. Maxim went a bit harsh, but it's justifiable, I think. So
It's my friend Maxime. He likes to go. He likes to really critique the players. So
so we'll see his next assessment. It's going to be on Zachary Beauguillard. 19 games played, 5 starts, 630 minutes, 4 goals, 3 assists, 9 tackles, 8 interception. ZBG signed a contract during the year, so he's going to be under contract for 2023, then 2 option years. I'll take ZBG. Um, I'm going to give a 7.5 to Broguillard. I know it's a high note, but I'll just go by his statistics again. 5 games started, 630 minutes, 4 goals, 3 assists. Now there's an argument to be made that ZBG was thrown into the mix in losing causes, so there was not much defending to do in any case. And
Mm-hmm.
I know that's maybe the you know the downfall of ZBG is when you have to ask him to defend a lot. But that's not his fault if Nasi didn't use him when when he needed to
Mm.
defend. When he went on the pitch, he did exactly what was asked by his coach. So I don't think you can be too critic towards ZBG, man, because if the coach identified him as the offensive sub for when we're losing, and he asked
Mm-hmm.
ZBG to contribute offensively and change the game when he comes in, well, I think he did just that in most occasions.
Mm-hmm.
Now, he started 5 games, probably where he struggled the most, because when you start the game at 0-0, you're
Yeah.
gonna ask ZBG to defend a bit more than maybe he would like to. But I don't think it was a disappointing season for him when he was on the pitch. Now, in in his head, probably wanted to play a lot more. And if you ask him, he might be disappointed of how the season went in a whole. But when he was asked to play, I think he did exactly what was asked for him.
so does
So
he
Yeah.
stay? Does he stay or he goes?
ZBG, I think that's a tough one. He committed to a contract, so I kind of think he's gonna stay,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm pretty sure that in these 2 options here, something is gonna happen. So ZBG will be back next year, but I have the feeling that next year is gonna be his last year in Montreal.
Mm-hmm.
because
Uh,
because even if Alistair Johnston leaves, can you play a back four with ZBG? I think the back five is made for him, right?
mm,
Now, if
Mm,
another coach comes in and plays a four, I
yeah.
don't
yeah.
know if it's well suited for him, really.
Listen, I would add a couple of things. First of all, I think 6.5 is way too much. I'm between 5.5 and 6. The reason behind this is exactly what you said. When he starts, he's not as efficient. He's so good when he doesn't have to defend, as you said, in the offensive. When we're going gung ho and we're trying to
Oh
score
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
goals, he's amazing. He
Mm-hmm.
improved a lot on his final touch. That's
Yeah.
something that I was very
Yeah.
critical about him last year. He
Mm-hmm.
improved a lot, so that's a good thing. He needs to make sure to be able to put the effort over 90 minutes, and I don't think he has that yet. For me, he has to go. There's been
He needs
there's
to
been
leave, I think.
interest, yeah.
Yeah.
There's been interest for him from Europe.
Yeah.
I think right now, I think he's 24 or
Yeah.
25. I think right now is when we're going to be able to make a bit of money out of
Mm-hmm.
that
He's
ZBG, and
only
I think
23, actually.
23. Okay, when is he going to be 24? Pretty soon, no?
December 30th.
Okay, yeah. So 20 exactly. Okay, so 24 in a month, a couple of months. So
But guys, don't you think that Sébastien Grenier has Seb has a good point here when he says, "But
Mm-hmm.
what was asked for ZBG, he
yeah,
has been clutch."
Yeah.
yeah, but
So
but
you
yeah, but don't you?
evaluate him on what on what he was asked to do, right?
Mm.
Yeah, but every time that he was given a start, he was not up to standards.
Five
Like every
starts though.
time, yeah. So that's 5 games out of 34.
Yeah,
It's
yeah, you're
still,
right.
he was given a chance a few times and he
Mm-hmm.
wasn't up to standard. So, and it's not his first year. If it was his first year, I would agree 100%. It's his third year. So at one point, if you haven't taken the chance and taking that spot for you, when will you win that spot?
Yeah.
When will it be? So yeah, for me, if there's an offer, they should sell him. If not, yeah, I'll be happy to keep him. But
Yeah.
I think there will be offers for Zachary Boogie.
Yeah, I think it will. Yeah, because he has an
Mm-hmm.
interesting profile. He's quick.
Yeah,
He's got a good shot on him. He's able to play in these back fives that are starting to be trendy more and more in Europe.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah.
no, I'd see interest on him for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No.
Robbie, Matthew, and Joey all give 6 to ZBG. So I think you guys have seen it a bit more realistically maybe than me,
Mm-hmm.
because I try to look at it that when you're on the pitch, what do you ask me to do? I do it. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, there is the point that Nassim might have not wanted to put him in certain situations because he was wary of what
Mm-hmm.
might happen. So that plays in there for sure. Let's move on. Eve, you've got Matko Miljevic. 22 games played, 6 starts, 688 minutes, 1 goal, 1 assist, 3 yellow cards, 34 fouls suffered. He's got 2 more contract years plus an option for 2025.
Oh, Matko Miljevic. It's I think it's a little bit like what Hady mentioned. Talking about Joaquin Torres when we talk about kind of the different culture of
Yeah.
soccer that he brings. So he filled in mainly for Georgi Mihailovic. Either if Mihailovic got subbed out during a game, or during that period where Mihailovic was injured. And I think we saw, like, especially during that series where Miljevic got several successive starts, like, we started to see things move faster,
Yeah.
because for him, it was typically really slow, when it came to progressing the ball forward in an attacking manner. So whether that was by a dribble or by a pass, it was a lot slower than we had been accustomed to, and it was a little bit frustrating to watch. But like, with some consistency, it was picking up. And then, of course, Mihailovic came back and took his spot, and then Miljevic was relegated to the bench. And then when he came on, it had kind of slowed back down again. So we can see that he's definitely a project player for sure. I think he does offer some interesting stuff. I'm not a fan of some of his gamesmanshipy antics.
Yeah,
I'm really not a fan of those, and I'm not there for them. I think he did get a deserved suspension by the league for a dive, which is not cool. Anyway, I'm gonna give him. I think I will give him a 6. Um, you know, he's growing into the role. I think I'm sure he's bound to get more minutes next year, and hopefully, we'll see more progress on him, and as well just a little bit of discipline when it comes to going to ground.
I completely agree with everything
Mhm.
you've said. It's exactly exactly what you said. I think that it's a player that if he's gonna get minutes, he's gonna improve. You put him on the bench for 3, 4, 5 games, he's gonna go back. He's gonna go backwards. He's
Yeah.
not gonna. Yeah, exactly. So he needs that confidence. He needs minutes. He needs to be pampered a bit, right? And I think he'll improve because technically he's very good. But what's really nice about Marko Miljevic is his vision.
Yeah, he's
He
got it.
has very good vision on the pitch. The thing is, he needs to learn the North American game, and he needs to go fast. And he's gonna learn at one point when we give him a bit more chances. So I'm just repeating everything that you've said. 5.5 for me. I don't think he's up there to a 6. 5.5 because for me 6 that means that he established himself as a rotation player. Right now, he's still not established, in my opinion. 5.5, he could be a rotation player, but right now he's not yet. He's still a fringe player.
Okay, fair enough.
And Robbie, Joey, and Matthew all went with a 5 for Miljevic. Robbie says shows some flashes, but no real results. Yeah, a bit like Torres, absolutely. Guys, let's move on to an interesting player on our list, Gabriele Corbo and Hady. You've got him. 14 games played, 13 starts, 1,134 minutes, 3 yellow cards, 21 tackles, 13 interceptions. He was on loan from Bologna, and there's no word on his future yet. And we had a poll this week on the Ball is Round's Twitter account, and we asked you guys, if you were the one and only person to decide on Gabriele Corbo's future, what would you do with the young Italian? And the choices were a season-long 2023 loan, a permanent deal, or thank you for the memories, we don't want you back. And interestingly, 60% of the 131 voters asked for a permanent deal. Only 4% of you didn't want to see Gabriele Corbo back. Very interesting, guys. Hady, what you have to say on that?
I agree with the people. I agree with the people. Yeah, sign him, man. Sign him. You want to be able to make to play Moneyball. That's a perfect example, right? So you sign him. I'm sure Bologna is not going to ask for much. You sign him on a permanent deal, and then you sell him back for $1 million or 2 or 3 at one point, because he's going to be a player that's going to attract other clubs. So I think he had a very interesting season. He was a bit shy at first, I think. Not very confident in the way he was on the pitch. I thought that sometimes he was playing too simple, where I think it's a good thing when you start in a new club.
Yeah,
was a good thing. But it was a bit too simple with the way a Nazi system was built. But he grew in confidence, and as he got a few minutes because of suspensions, injuries, and such. And he grew in confidence. He was very, very clean. He got, I think, once in the team of the season with MLS.
Team of the week, yeah.
Team of the week, sorry. That's what I meant. Team of the week in MLS, which is really nice. So I think I would like to see him sign a permanent deal. I would say 6.5 out of 10 because he's very interesting. And don't forget, with the way things are going for next year, we might have a few young players that will be a part of the squad, in defense. So I think he could be some sort of an example for those young players in how to get regular minutes, and I think that could be nice too.
I find this one tricky because, I don't know, like, with the actual defensive situation that Montreal has right now, we can pretty safely assume that Camacho is going to be back. And I know we're going to talk about Waterman later. Definitely some question marks around Kamal Miller, but that isn't necessarily the role that Corpo would be playing anyway. And this is me assuming that Montreal sticks with the back three again next year. So it's a little bit tricky because I don't know, like for Corbo, I think for him to want to come back, I think he would need a guarantee of like more minutes than he got this season.
Yeah, for sure.
And
for sure.
So I think that's the tricky part, because if the existing defensive line sticks around, one can fairly safely assume that they would go into the season at least as the starters. And so I think that could be like really tricky to negotiate for him.
Yeah, I agree with you.
But still, if you look at the Camacho is under contract for another year, then what? We don't know. Miller might leave.
Yeah,
for sure. Miller is the left-footed. Corbo could slot into that left center back position, but it's not
not ideal.
Or Waterman, yeah, for sure. But it's not ideal. And Torkelson is there a bit for it, right?
And Gary Fayal.
Yeah, exactly. So there's a lot of there could be a lot of movement, but if we go just based on what he gave us this year.
I'd like to see him back with Montreal for sure. I'm just kind of like, I'm not sure if it's realistic with like the existing parties who are there, and then even as Hady said, like I know you said that they're going to be young and they will certainly need some examples for sure. But if a good few of those existing folks stick around, then like there's not going to be a whole lot of time for everyone to get a look in.
True. Absolutely. So it's going to be interesting for Corbo. Some good notes for Corbo. Robbie gives him a 7, Matthew gives him a 6, and Joey a 7.5. Yeah, I agree with Joey, man. I mean, you guys, Corbo, he did a bit like ZBJ. He did what he was asked to, man. He slotted in.
6.5 is a great grade.
65% in your exam is a great grade, man.
For someone that wasn't a starter, yeah, of course.
I don't know.
He's not a starter. He's not a regular starter.
Maybe we don't see it the same way, but I see it as when you're asked to perform, how did you do? And not his status in the team. I know that Corbo is behind Miller, Camacho, Waterman in the pecking order, but when he was asked to go out there, he was so clean, and as a center back, sometimes even cleaner than Kamal Miller, and how he would approach getting the ball out from the back, even sometimes cleaner than Joel Waterman for me. So, I mean,
so for you, it's possible to get a 10. For me, it's not possible.
No, I don't believe in that though. I don't.
No, so it depends how you grade stuff. For me,
that's the thing.
It's very hard for me to go over an 8.5. So 6.5 for me is very, very good, right? So it all depends how you see the grading stuff, right?
I don't know. We'll see. Okay. We'll see going forward.
I think like for next year, we need to sit down and like establish an actual rubric so that we're all grading on the same scale.
Now it's gonna get boring then, because we all say the same thing.
Yeah, but it's nice because we're not agreeing. I think that's what the pod is all about, right?
Fair enough.
Okay. So but for me, if you ask me the question, is Corbo back? I'd say no. But if I'd like him to be back, most definitely. But I don't think he will be back. So
I'm on your boat, Sam.
And I think it's you, Eve, that sent us, I think, an Instagram post of him saying goodbye or something like that.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
We'll see. Let's move on to Jose Aquizera. I'm gonna rate him. 9 games played, 3 starts, 293 minutes, 1 assist, 1 yellow card, 7 tackles, 2 interceptions. His contract is up. He came on a 1 year, but he has 3 more option years. I'm sorry. Quizera reminds me a bit of ZBG in the sense that, he's going to be very interesting in when you need to unlock a side of the pitch, okay? When you're going to play against a team that's ready to go blow for blow with you, it's a bit more dangerous, because a bit like ZBG, his defending can be a bit suspect. He's not a defender. He's been converted as a wingback, but for what I heard, his college days were more as a midfielder
Yeah.
slash winger. So of course the defending is going to be difficult for him. But when he was asked to go on the pitch when we were trailing by a goal, or when Lassie was having some trouble unlocking his side of the pitch, he showed some interesting flashes. I think sometimes he was a bit overdoing it, or looking for a bit too much of the highlight stuff, when he could have maybe combined with players a bit closer. But he's an interesting player. He has a very unique way of running with the ball, of attacking a player one on one, and he's got some good dribbling abilities, which not a lot of players in the team have. So for the very small sample that we were able to see of Jose Quizera, I think it's positive. So I'd give him a 5.5. And because there was a lot of mistakes too, especially in the starts he had. It wasn't so clean as when he came in as a sub. So a bit the same syndrome as ZBG. And will he be back? I'd say yes. If they can sort out his passport situation, it could be much better too. Because last year the only times he would play in the States is when he would go across the border by car, then would take a plane to get to the team, or he just play home games. So if they are able to unlock that situation, and is he's able to travel fully with the team, I'd definitely like him to come back. But if he's only going to be available for a few games, I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't
that's
know.
tricky.
I don't know. It's but that's a bit out of the football thing. So let's keep it football. I'd say yes. I think he's gonna be back, and they're gonna activate his option, or maybe negotiate a new contract with him, maybe a 2-year deal, and see what's up. But it's not gonna be a very lucrative deal, and he's
Yeah.
yeah
I agree. It's a positive 5.5 for
yeah
me.
yeah yeah
Yeah.
yeah for sure, for sure.
It's a positive 5.5. And I think he took the place of someone that we're going to talk about a bit later. He's the kind of guy that we're going to need for depth. And
Yeah.
I think he's going to be important. And he has a will to learn. And you'll
Oh,
see he improved just in a few games that he played. He improved a bit. So
Yeah.
I can't wait to see him on a longer run to see if he's able to bring something else. But for a positive 5.5, I want him back. So
Yeah.
hopefully it gets all sorted out with his contract, with his passport. So hopefully.
Yeah.
we'll move on. Oh, sorry. Matthew, Joey give 5s, and Robbie gives 5.5 to Jojea. Let's move on. Eve, you've got Joel Waterman. 32 games played, 32 starts, 2,834 minutes, 3 goals, 2 assists, 32 fouls committed, 26 suffered, 12 yellow cards, 30 tackles, 41 interceptions. His contract is up, but he's got an option for next season. And when I say an option, I'll repeat it, it's always a club option. Players in MLS don't have options on their contracts. So, Eve, go ahead for Joel.
So awesome season for Joel Waterman. His best in Montreal, in my opinion. Obviously, he scored some really clutch goals for Montreal. Thinking of that goal in Columbus, notably when he was for some reason up there as the striker. And, oh Lord, on that night after that big weather delay. He really, really owned that third spot that we saw him kind of gradually take over last year. That third central defender position, he really owned that this year. He's got a nice eye for a line breaking pass, which is really helpful with the way Montreal plays and getting things set up. He did pick up, obviously 12 yellow cards is not a small number. So there is definitely some cleaning up that he could do in his defensive work when he's taking on players to recover the ball from them. And I know a few of those were like tactical yellows, to be clear, but nonetheless, 12 is still a high number. And you get your first suspension after 5, and then you get suspended again after 8, and so on and so on. So you do want to be a little bit mindful of that. But for me, it was a really, really good season for Joel Waterman. He got eyes on him with the national team as well. And I, mm, yeah, really, really pleased. Really like a lot of his passing game as well, and his composure. So with that being said, I'm gonna give him a 7 out of 10 for the season.
Well, okay. Does he stay? Or he goes?
I think that he does have the option here. I think that the club should actually negotiate a new contract with
Yeah.
him because he is on like a very, very, very low salary. And I mean, he's played 32, started 32. He's also like not injury prone as a player, which is a big plus for him. Other defenders in the backline have missed matches through injury, and obviously that's a normal part of the game. But Joel Waterman is like kind of an Iron Man. The only matches that he missed were due to like yellow card suspensions. So I think with his fitness, I think in my opinion, the club should negotiate a new contract, an improved contract with him for maybe another 2 to 3 seasons.
Sam, do you want to go ahead?
Oh
Or
man, it's pretty obvious that Joel had a good season, and there wasn't much to be said. I know his last game in the playoffs, he struggled a lot against New York City. Wasn't his best look, but we're just not looking at one game. Looking at the whole
Yeah.
season, and it's been a good season for Waterman. He really established himself as an MLS player for sure, without a doubt. I know some people, are still saying CPL Joel and stuff. Yeah, I read it on Twitter, but I don't agree. I think he's 100% an MLS player, and you could see it when we would go against when we went against the CPL team. It was against Forge in the Canadian Championship. Joel Waterman looked so much better than the center backs of the opposition team. He's definitely an MLS player. So, and he did very well this year. So I think 8 is a good
Wow.
yeah,
Yeah.
I agree with Sam. For me, it's an 8.
Okay. I was afraid I was being too generous. I was afraid I could be fun. Okay, well, I'll kick it up to 7.5.
For me, he's the man of the season. He's the player of the season. It's as simple as that. I said it quite a few times here on The Ball Is Round. There's a lot of things. I'm not going to repeat everything that you guys said. I'm just going to add a few things. First of all, guys, he's so versatile. He played as a right center back. He played as a left center back. He scored goals. He's able to play in the middle. He's able to play as a right back also. That's something that's very important nowadays with all the games that are, very, very much have a lot of games
like
to
condensed.
play. And condensed, exactly. The schedule being condensed and everything. So I think that's very, very important. That's one thing. And in the locker room, this guy is loved.
Mm-hmm.
Is really loved. So having a player that's gets along with everybody is very important. He's Canadian, so he breathes. He breathes Canada, right? So when you're like, he represents the country so well, and that's something that you want out of your players, right? To represent not the city because he's not from here, but the country already. So I think that's very important. He should sign. I hope he's gonna sign a long-term contract, a 3-4 year contract. I think would be a very, very smart move from the club, so he can establish himself, establish his family here, and also grow here and be that backbone. We talked about Camacho having a contract for 1 year also, so maybe him being the general of the defense in the next few years would make a lot of sense.
That could be possible.
Yeah, and we loved him when he plays in the middle of the
he did well.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So for me, an 8 and long-term contract, please.
So you echo Robbie, Matthew, and Joey, who all gave 8. So Eve, you were harsh with Joel, I think, man.
I went up to 7.5.
Okay. Hady, you're next with Ahmed Hamdi. 9 games played, 3 starts, 328 minutes, 1 assist, 2 yellow cards, 5 tackles. He is under contract for next year. Then he's got an option for 2024. Hady, you particularly wanted to talk about Ahmed Hamdi. I know you did his first interview in Montreal. You did it in Arabic when he just arrived. I know you regard him highly. So what do you have to say on his season?
His season, I'm sorry, Gail, sucked.
That's not a bad word. She's okay
For
with
me,
that
it
one.
is.
Oh,
Okay,
okay.
she's okay with that one. Okay, perfect, nice. Okay, I don't think she's gonna be very happy with me at the end of the episode,
Oh
but
no.
whatever. But yeah, he had a very bad season. I would give him a 4 out of 10. He was very, very disappointing. Now, for me, not only I will give him a 4. I'm disappointed. I think he was off tempo every time he played, and that's bad. But I haven't given up on him. This guy, guys, was playing in one of the best clubs in Egypt. He's been
Hmm.
called up with the Egyptian national team, which is no small feat. I'm pretty sure that he's going to be able to, if given the chance, if he's not injured, he's going to be able to show us what he's all about. I wouldn't sign him, give him another contract, not at all. But I would give him his last year to prove himself. Hopefully, he'd be able to prove himself. If not, too bad. Uh, but I still think he has some quality in him.
Hmm.
And it's someone that I talked with a lot of people within the club. Someone that's really liked within the dressing room. That's always smiling. That's always nice. Uh, and I think that's kind of important. So yeah, I would want to see Aman Hamdi back next year. If he's not, I wouldn't be very sad or anything. It's just that you can't change your whole team from one year to another. You have a player that has some kind of potential. Give him that last chance where he's healthy and he's able to play. So 4 out of 10, but keep him.
Got you. Yeah. Yeah. It's unfortunate that his season got like just completely cut off at the knees. For sure. Um, but yeah, I think I'm gonna have to agree with you what you said, Hady. Like, definitely give him next year. Kind of start with a clean slate, a little bit like Mason Toy. Start with a clean slate next
Yeah,
year,
yeah.
assuming he's fully recovered from his injury and everything, and hopefully that can kind of be like his breakout.
Yeah. Unfortunately, even before his injury, didn't look great when he did go on the pitch. But I had the feeling that there was just no position for him because
Yeah.
when we were playing that double pivot, he couldn't play in the Wanyama or Piet role, and he
Hmm.
couldn't play either as a number 10. It was a bit too far up the pitch. So I'd really be curious to see him in a flat four midfield.
Hmm.
Four
Really
three
as a
three.
yeah
A
4-3-3 or
Yeah.
4-3-3 also.
4-4-2. I
Yeah.
don't
A
know,
four four
just
two. Yeah.
a kind of a box to box player
Hmm.
bit what Tyder used to do for us a few years
Exactly.
ago. I'd
Yeah.
be interested to see him in that. I think that's a bit of a context why he underperformed a lot. But still, you can't be locked into one position these days. You need to be able to be a bit versatile, and that's not what he showed. So I'd agree. Unfortunately, I don't like giving these bad grades, but I think he deserves the 4 and MD. But I'm still confident that he can do much better because he showed some nice flashes last year. So yeah, but not much to say else.
No.
Robbie gives Hamdi a 5, Joey a 4, and Matthew says Hamdi did not play. So yeah, guys, we'll move on to yes, Kai Kamara. I'll
Oh
take
wow.
Kai. I'll take Kai. Uh, 34 games played, 16 starts, 1,730 minutes, 9 goals, 7 assists, 50 shots, 23 fouls committed, 17 suffered, 2 yellow cards. Kai's contract is up, and the club has an option for next year. And we put a poll on the Ball is Round's Twitter account this week. And I put a bit of context to the poll. What I said on the Twitter page is that yes, the club has an option for next year, but I think that where he is at in his career, and the respect that he deserves as a person and as an athlete,
Hmm.
I think the ball should be in his camp if he wants to come back, and not just force him to come back on his contract here. So we asked the question. Um, if you were the only person deciding on Kai Kamara's future, what would you do? And the choices were: activate the option, the ball is in your camp, Kai, or thanks for the memories. And 43% of you guys said to activate the option. 55% of you said that the ball was in Kai's camp and he could decide, and only 2% of y'all said that he should not be back.
What's
I thought,
important
like,
for our listeners is to say that on this poll we had a bit short of 200 voters,
Yeah.
so it's a good sample size. On the others, we were a bit more than 100 voters, so we have a good sample size to discuss those polls. I just wanted to say. Sorry.
No, I was just gonna say, I think what was interesting on this poll in particular was like the comments. Especially for the people who I'm guessing those folks probably chose the ball is in your camp. But I found the comments on the poll for this one really interesting. It was a lot of people kind of just echoing like, we really, really want him back if he wants to, if he thinks he's up for one more year and stuff.
Oh yeah, you guys go check these answers. Like, people are so nice to Kai. I think he deserved it, right? Because
he's so nice to everybody, man. Well, so yeah, of course people are going to be nice with him.
But on the pitch, Kai had a very, very good season for me. He was very important when we needed that outlet to get out from the back, and I know that's not the type of play that Wilfred wanted to play, but he kind of had to adjust, and when pressure was coming, you could get some steam off by just sending the ball forward to Wakai. He was able to pick it up and calm the play away from the penalty area. So it was very interesting to see. Plus, he was clutch alone up front. He was able to connect very well with Romel Kyoto. Not so much with Mason Toy, but I think Mason was struggling himself. Joaquin Torres didn't work out too much, but in general, for someone his age and coming back from Finland when everyone thought he was finished, 9 goals, 7 assists, 50 shots is amazing. And for me, it's a 8.5 for Kai. And yeah.
I don't understand your scale, man. I don't understand your scale, man. You see, give 7.5 to Corbo and only 8.5 for Kai.
Only 8.5, man. That's good, man.
7.5 for Corbo.
But yeah. Well, once again, it's what was
asked of you.
Yeah, that's how I see it, man.
Really? But for me, if I look at your scale, he should be at 9 and more.
Well, 8.5, you're very close to 9, but
you're not at 9. No. It's like, you almost passed the exam, but you didn't pass, right?
Oh, Lord,
no, man, 8.5 is good. It's good, and I think it's representative of Kai, who had a good season. Now maybe lose some point because he missed a few sitters at like, my goodness, some easy goals. He could easily have finished the season with 15 goals if he scored like these open nets that he found a way somehow to miss. But yeah, I think 8.5 is it's not too it's not exaggerated. I think I'll just read out the grades. Joey gave an 8, Patrick gives 7.7, almost 8, Robbie gives 8.5, Matthew gives 7, and Seb Grenier asks us what was each of your prediction at the beginning of the year for scoring for Kai.
We didn't do that.
Oh, did we predict anything? Man, I wish we had now.
Oh wow, I don't remember.
I'll find it in a minute when we'll go to Kone. Eve, you'll give your grades and I'll look for it. I have it.
Oh, God love you.
I just want to say for Kai, I don't know if you have anything to add.
No. I said I had to say.
No. For me, no, excellent season. Way better than the expectations. It just makes me bitter because it just kind of proves that Montreal should have signed him one of the 5 million years that the fans were saying, sign Kai Kamara. So, it makes me a little bitter in that regard. But if he wants to come back, I would take him back for sure. Because Montreal, I think, is going to need a veteran striker presence. And why not somebody who is just such a great ambassador for the league and for the club within the city, and with the supporters, he seems to just be universally loved. So yeah,
me, the only thing that I would change is because of my scaling I would change the grade to 8, but for me 8 is as good as Waterman, who is the man of the season in my opinion. So amazing year for Kai Kamara. So I'm not going to add anything else because everything was said. and hopefully he will come back next year. He will accept for the club to activate the option, because he's very important for the dressing room. He's very important on the pitch. He's very important for the journalists. I love having him in media availability because it's always very fun, always smiling, always happy. Even when he was, I think he injured his thumb or anything, he was like smiling.
Oh
like
yeah.
I don't know. I love the guy, and I think he's very positive with journalists, with the team, with everybody, and the jokes that he makes. It's important to have a guy like that, and of course, experience is very important too. So hopefully he'll come back.
Mm-hmm.
Sam, you're on mute, man. I know you're trying to speak, but
my bad. Okay, guys, I got it, and we didn't say exactly how many goals he would score.
Mm-hmm.
We said over under. You remember when we did
that?
Okay,
Yes.
So, Kai Camera, the over and under was 5.5
goals.
Yeah. Eve, you said under.
Oh God.
Hady, you said under.
Really? Oh wow.
And I said under.
No way!
Oh, man,
Sebastian, man, what did you do to us now? Now we're not experts anymore. We're nothing.
Crazy,
oh, my shame.
Well, he listens to us. That's what's up.
Yeah.
He remembers that we all mixed up when we talked about cameras.
Yeah, my guys, like, who would have thought he would score that much?
Yeah, no.
Amazing.
If someone tells me and has it recorded somewhere that he would score that much, please send me the recording and tell me, because I don't
also
think
the lottery
anybody
numbers.
thought.
Yeah.
Exactly, please. The lottery numbers, exactly. So yeah.
Let's move on to our lesson, because now it's embarrassing. So let's move on to Ismail Kone. Ismail Kone.
Okay, so we didn't make any predictions on Kone, did we?
No.
Good, okay, we're safe.
We didn't even know he existed.
Yeah, when we did that.
No, that's the thing. I'm quite certain that we wouldn't have. All right.
But Eve, Kone is your guy. But for someone who we didn't know who was, he still played 28 games, started 1,746 minutes, 3 goals, 4 assists, 21 shots, 23 fouls committed, 38 fouls suffered, 6 yellow cards, 1 red, 14 tackles, 12 interception. Kone's contract is up, but the club has options for 2023 and 2024. Eve, go ahead.
Yeah, so Kone really burst onto the scene. For sure, he was really an unknown factor, but like, holy crap, did he ever make himself known and quickly? So I don't know if any player has ever had, at least with Montreal, I'm not sure if any player has ever had a better pro debut season. Truly.
Balu Tabla.
I'm not sure. I think Kone's might have been better.
I think Kone's was better too, yeah.
Yeah. No, I really think it was the best. And for the amount of time that he did play, 3 goals and 4 assists, like, it might not seem like a lot, but there was a lot of really interesting play that doesn't necessarily factor in those stats. There was so much interesting movement. There were so many, quick one-touch give and goes with teammates. There were so many like runs into space that maybe just the teammate didn't pass to him in that moment. So I find his vision really interesting. He seems to be capable of being like a metronome for the team. So a little bit like a Georgi Mihailovic, in that he can, I think he can contribute to speeding up play or slowing down play. Obviously, like, as a young player, there's still there's a lot of development in him, and I think his ceiling is incredibly high. Really interesting player. Really, really great luck that, Montreal was able to sign him, because obviously, if the world had not come to a standstill in 2020, they probably wouldn't have been able to. So everything happens for a reason. That being said, he does have his contract for 2020, or his options for 2023, 2024. I expect the options to be exercised, but I do not expect Ismail Kone to be a Montreal player in 2023, because we already know at least one club is coming back to the table for him in January, or at least they plan to do so, as they announced earlier this summer. And we certainly expect that he will be making the trip to Qatar. So his value is obviously going to rise, and his visibility is going to be increased just that much more. And as for a grade, it is his first pro season. I'm going to give him a 7 because he went from an absolute nobody to one of the most exciting prospects in the league this year. So for me, that's absolutely worth a 7.
Yeah, and just to come back to his contract, Patrick says we need to find a way to keep him for one more season. He would probably make a move to a bigger club and for more money, win-win. Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
and that's
Really
definitely,
interesting.
yeah. I can understand though, like why a player would still want to go, like this year when they if they get the opportunity. I could,
Of course.
but yeah, if Olivier Renard could talk him into staying, I would definitely be down.
Yeah. Hady.
Yeah, a few things. First of all, he will not be here next year. For me, it's impossible. He's going to be sold 100%. I'll be very surprised if he's not sold.
So we activate his options and we sell him.
I think it's already activated. It's
Okay.
just that the club doesn't communicate on activations like they did with Nasi.
Yeah, they used to do it. Yeah.
But even with Nasi, his option is activated, but nobody said that it was. So
Yeah.
So yeah, I think he is going elsewhere for sure, 100%. He's going to be sold. The thing is, I would give him 6.5 just because of my scaling of things. Because I think he needs to be a bit more consistent. He disappeared at one point during the season, but he's very young, and that's important.
Yeah.
He's on. It's a learning curve, right? So it's completely normal that he's not 100% there yet. He also needs to be a bit more professional. We all know what the problems that he had off the pitch, disciplinary problems and stuff. So, that's things that he needs to learn in order to grow as a player, in order to be more consistent, in order to be able to, when you go to Europe, these kinds of off the pitch problems, they cannot happen.
Well, there's a lot of youngsters that go into some of these patterns and they learn from them. So
but some of them never learn at Benarfa.
Oh yeah.
So
there you go.
This guy could have been a Ballon d'Or maybe 3 or 4 times if he has his head on his shoulders, but he doesn't. So I just hope that, and if we want to talk about a player that's closer to Montreal, Badou Tabla. So, some players never learn. So hopefully he will, and he's going to be able to progress in his career and, raise Montreal's crest as high as possible. But yeah, no, he's being sold. For me, 99% he's being sold. After World Cup too, he's being sold 100%.
Okay. I'm mitigated a bit on Kone because us in Montreal, we've not been treated to just the highlight reels of his nice turns, his nice passes. We've seen the whole picture. So I think we've been a bit more able to evaluate his play than maybe outsiders who've been maybe checking more of the highlights. Very flashy. He's a beautiful player. The way he runs with the ball, the way he has a setup.
The way he turns on the ball, and that's very important.
Very textbook in a lot of things that he do, but he showed some big flashes of inexperience in a lot of cases. Sometimes man marking, sometimes decision making, and when to tackle, when not to. And you can just go back to the Chicago game away. He got sent off in the first half for 2 pretty useless.
One of those yellows was iffy.
Iffy for sure, but experienced players know when to do that. But
and they know how to read a ref as well.
Then again, exactly. He's learning exactly, and that's my whole point. So I'm not. I'm just saying that it's not. I think maybe some people from the exterior looking in will think Kone will get a 9 or 9.5. I think he's had a good season in the circumstances that it was his first poor year, and he was playing a very difficult position in Nasi's system, which asks a lot of these players. So you have to take that in consideration. But I think 7 is a good grade for Kone. I think he showed some awesome stuff, and he showed some some moments it was lacking a bit. So yeah, but to start your career that way, it can only be good. It can only
Yeah,
go upwards. So it's
agreed.
it's just gonna be great for Kone in the next few years. I'll
Hmm.
just go through the grades that we received for Kone. Joey says 7, Robbie 7, Matthew 7, Patrick 7.5 overall, but a 9 in the last 10 games or so. That's interesting, Patrick. He did have a very, very good end of his season. That Orlando playoff game, he was
Yes.
very, very good. Um, yeah, so yeah, good grades overall for Kone.
Hmm.
Guys, there's 4 players. I don't want us to go too much in detail. I just want to know if they're gonna be back or not. So I'll
Okay.
throw you a name. You say yes or no. If you need to add something, you do, but I don't think it will be necessary. So I'll start with you, Hady. Rida Zouir, will he be back or not?
100%. He's part of the future
Hmm.
of CF Montreal. So yeah, he'll be back and he'll be a rotation player, I think, next year.
Eve.
Yeah, I
Yes.
agree. I completely agree.
Okay. Eve, Zara Bassong, will he be back or not?
I don't think so.
No.
No,
Me
I
neither.
mean we haven't seen heads or tails of him since very, very early this season, and I just don't think it's worked out.
Sorry, man. Kuzera is better than
Oh
Zoran
yeah,
Besson.
yeah.
Hmm.
So you have Lassie, you have Mathieu Choignette, and then you
Kuzera,
have
yeah.
Kuzera, and then you have Besson. So thank you, Zoran. Bye bye.
Hadi,
Hmm.
will Sunusi Ibrahim be back next year?
I'll be very, very sad if he's not back. I
Mm.
think that this guy has potential. He's shown a bit of it this year, but a lot more last year in 2021. I don't know why we didn't build on this. So
Yeah.
hopefully, like Robbie says, maybe he's in the doghouse of Philippe Redancy.
Oh boy, the doghouse.
So I don't know. I don't know. I'll be I'll be very unhappy if he doesn't, because I think that it's a player that if he's able to perform, we're going to be able to sell
Hmm.
and make a bit of money from him.
Hmm.
Eve.
Yeah. Yeah. I would expect that he would be back next year. Yeah. You know, I agree that it was weird to see him used as little as he was. Like I know in 2021, I think he did get used a lot more than anticipated, just because of Ramel Kyoto getting injured, and then also, of course, Mason Toy being injured for
Mhm.
like kind of the second half of the season. So I think maybe like we saw more than we had anticipated seeing in 2021, and then like but then this year it felt like the extreme opposite. Like we really didn't see any of Sanusi Ibrahim, aside from like the Canadian Championship, and then a couple of very small cameo appearances. But yeah, I think he does show some interesting qualities, and I'm more referring to 2021 because we
Yeah.
saw so little of him. And I think he would be a different profile from the existing, attacking players who we have in the squad right now. So yeah, keep him.
Cool. Last but not least, Hadi, will Bjorn Janssen be back next year?
No.
No,
Okay.
no,
No. Okay.
Do
I
I
don't
need to
think.
add anything
No, I
else?
don't think we need
Okay.
to. Guys,
no.
let's move on to Justin Furtado's question.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm just putting it out. Where are you, Justin? There you are.
There you go. So Justin wanted to talk a bit about the expansion draft, and he says, with St. Louis City SC joining the league next season, do you expect them to pick a CF Montreal player, or does Olivier Renard make a trade with them like he did with Austin in 2020 to get Kamal Miller?
Hmm. I mean, definitely, I think that because you're only allowed to protect 11 players in the expansion drafts, and like sometimes you can have those gentlemen's agreements with various clubs, to have certain teams pick certain players, and then things go this way and that way and the other way, like we saw with Kamal Miller. But nonetheless, obviously, for teams that finish high in the standings, and then teams as well that go into the playoffs, I think those have got to be like the first teams that many sporting directors will look at,
Mm-hmm.
because you know to finish strong in the regular season, and then as well to continue your run in playoffs. I know Montreal only got 2 games, but nonetheless, um, that means that you do have a strong 11, but you do also have depth on the bench. So even if you do protect your preferred starting 11, maybe, those bench players are definitely a value add and can also bring that MLS experience to a brand new team, which is kind of being cobbled together, with a bunch of strangers. So, I could definitely see them making a move for a Montreal player for sure.
They'll be stupid not to choose a Montreal player. Montreal is the second team in the East and has a lot of players that are role players. So even if all the players that are not protected, they had a role to play this year. So I'm pretty sure that they will sign a Montreal player, but I'm also pretty sure that Olivier Renard is gonna try to make a deal with St. Louis. Now, will St. Louis bite and accept the deal? Is he going to be able to propose something that's interesting? And I think that's where we're going to see how good is Olivier Renard and how good is Vasily. So that's going to be, I think, a big test for them, and it's coming very, very, very soon this week on the 11th, so on Friday. I can't wait to see what's going to happen because it's going to be interesting. Very, very interesting.
I remember watching the Austin draft with my mom in the basement.
Yeah. It's always fun though, but now that I think we have some players that could be interesting, it's going to be a bit more nerve-wracking than it was previous years, because when Austin came in, I wasn't really expecting them to pick any of our players. So now there could be some interesting players available. So it's going to be interesting. Guys, now we're moving more into the men's national team because the World Cup is so close. So the pod is going to turn a lot towards that, but we'll always make sure to keep a segment on Montreal if anything happens. So we will keep it alive for Montreal for sure. So let's dive into the men's national team. There was a few injury news this week. Alphonso Davies, he pulled a muscle in his right leg, and everyone thought he was done for the World Cup. There was a lot of scaremongering out there, but it was announced by Bayern Munich that he would miss 2 weeks, and that World Cup was not in doubt for him. So that's a very, very good news. What was sad, though, was that Maxime Crépeau broke what seemed to be either his right ankle or lower tibia.
I think it's there's something on his leg for sure.
Yeah. They didn't say exactly what was injured. Yeah,
they didn't even show the replay, by the way.
No, they didn't.
It wasn't for the faint-hearted, man. If you don't like to see these broken bones, you won't like it.
Yeah, but usually you always get to see a replay somewhere.
No, they have really cracked down on that in recent years.
I love it. I love the fact that we're not seeing it.
No,
it's weird too.
So that brings me to ask you guys, because he'll obviously be out for the World Cup. Is James Pantemis going to Qatar?
Or is Dane Sinclair going to Qatar?
Well, Dane Sinclair is
going for sure.
Okay, Dane. Yeah. Okay. Well, if Dane Sinclair is
they're bringing 3 goalies, eh? They're gonna bring Borjan. Now, for sure, they're bringing Sinclair. Who's number 3? That's the question.
You gotta think that. Yeah. Go ahead.
Sorry. Start. I don't mind. I can.
Oh no! I was just gonna say. I mean, obviously, James Pantemis would be the first name that comes to mind, and maybe that's my Montreal bias, just the fact that I hear his name more often than I hear many other names. But obviously they do have Canadian keepers in Vancouver, but I think Thomas Hasal is way too young for that. So I definitely think that his chances have definitely just increased exponentially.
I don't. He's 23, Thomas Hasal, so he's not very young. So
okay,
inexperienced though. Eh? Another one who went through these.
Listen, I think that it all depends on how John Herdman wants to build his squad. Usually, the third goalkeeper is never going to get any playing time, so you need him for the dressing room. You need him to help the first goalkeeper and the second sometimes to be more focused, to be challenged, to be help, to be more support, and also to help his teammates, the whole group in the dressing room. That's why you need the third goalkeeper. Most of the time, you have 2 types of choices. Either you choose a very, very young goalkeeper because you're looking at the future and you're looking at someone to get that experience on the World Cup stage to be prepared for the next cycle. and that's something that we are looking very much forward to here in Canada. So that's one option. And the second option is to get a very experienced goalkeeper. And if you're getting a very experienced goalkeeper, there's Jason Lutweiler. That could be a very good
He's
pickup.
playing League One in England, right?
And he's playing League One. He's 33. He's been here for a while. He's been called up quite a few times. He can bring that extra experience vibe to the goalkeeping squad. So I don't know. I think it's going to be between Pantemis and Lutweiler, because I don't think the other goalkeeper. I don't think Thomas Hassal is ready because he didn't have a great season.
No.
So yeah, for me, it's going to be between those two, unless John Herdman goes with
like super young,
like an under 20 goalkeeper that's going to be ready in 4 years. Maybe I don't know what happened with Busti. Is he?
Yeah.
I haven't heard from him in a while. So is he going to look for the future, or is he going to choose the now? So that's the big
Interesting.
question.
Yeah. So it's not done. A lot of people kind of triggered like, oh yes, Pantemis is going for sure. But you're right. It all depends on which mindset John Herdman wants to bring to his group. And yeah, it's very interesting. Eve, you had something to add?
No.
Okay.
No.
Well, if Pantemis goes or doesn't, it's going to influence something. It's going to influence on how much money Montreal is going to get, because there is some allocation giving to the clubs. And as Tate asked us this question.
Yeah, 1 sec. Here it is.
CF Montreal should make $500,000 plus with some of their players heading to the World Cup this year. Any sense what the club will use this money on?
I'm just going to explain a bit the question of Tate, if you don't mind, before we answer it, because a lot of people are going to ask questions. How come they're getting 500K? The reason is FIFA is giving 10,280 euros per day for each player that's playing in the World Cup. It starts in the group stage and it finishes at the end of the group stage or whenever the team is eliminated. I tried to make some calculus to get the exact amount or close to the exact amount, and I don't know where it starts. Does it start the first day of the group stage?
Like the camp?
Or is it the first? Nah, I don't know if it's the camp. They said the group stage. I read it.
Okay.
They said the group stage. So is it the first day of the group stage, or is it the first day of Canada's game?
Oh, that the team actually plays.
That the team plays. So I'm not really sure. So I chose, the lower amount of days as possible to get the smaller sample possible.
Yeah, to kind of be conservative.
Exactly. So Canada starts on the 23rd of November. And their last game is on the 1st of December. So let's say they get eliminated after the group stage. That's 9 days. 9 days. So 10,280 euros. Considering that Canada should have, I said 5 players in the World Cup. I don't think they'll get less than 5. It gives about 450,000 US dollars. So more than 500,000 Canadian dollars. Which is very interesting. I just wanted to give a bit of context to Tate's question, so I'll let you discuss.
Oh my! There's so many things that Montreal could do with that money. Obviously, lots of talk about giving some TLC to the stadium, but unfortunately, that requires the cooperation of the city. So that's probably a no-go. Joey's wallet. Well, Lord knows we have heard Joey talk about, taxes and
oh yeah,
all that fun stuff. So, maybe they may well look to just use some of that, it's almost like bonus money, to a degree.
It's gonna go,
So to be honest, like there's a very boring part of me that says maybe they're going to use it just to kind of try and climb a little out of the hole financially, which is really boring. And I'm sorry.
That's exactly what I don't think we'll see it anywhere.
I don't agree with you guys.
No,
I don't agree with you. I'm pretty sure that the money is going to be used to in the foundations in the offices to get more. We've seen Amy Walsh being hired. We've seen Justin Ma being hired. Those kinds of hiring, those kind of recruits in the offices are going to be very important, and I think that's where we're going to see the 500K go, because there's a lot of seats that are unfilled, in my opinion, in a professional environment. A club should have a lot more heads working together on a project, and I think that's where Montreal needs to improve on. It's not a lot, 500K, right? So
No.
I think Montreal needs to invest there. So hopefully we'll see a bit more, in that regard. So that's where I think the money will go.
Okay, interesting. Guys, we go quickly. Okay, John Herdman is bringing some players to Byron to face Byron and to hold up a little training camp over there. And we have the list. It was published pretty much I'm sure pretty much everyone saw it. Yeah, it didn't go out so well on visual for us, but 8 Montreal players in there. Pantemis, Waterman, Miller, Broguillard, Johnston, Piet, Kone, that's about it. Chouanière and Mathieu Chouanière. So I'll just ask you a question real fast, guys. Who realistically is playing to maybe scrape through a role in Qatar from Montreal?
Well, knowing that Scott Kennedy got injured last weekend and is definitely going to miss the World Cup as a result of that, you got to think that Joel Waterman is clinging on. Obviously, the specter of Daniil Henry looms there at the camp as well. And you kind of got to feel it's going to come down to one of those two to be the sort of extra central defender. But yeah, I would say Joel Waterman.
Yeah, I agree with Joel Waterman, but I also see Mathieu Chouanière having a chance. The reason behind it is his versatility, and I think I talked about it quite a few times here on The Ball is Round. When you go into tournament modes, you need players that can play multiple positions. You need those players that are your Swiss knives, right? That come and play the last 10 minutes of the game. You can put them left back, right back, left wing back, right wing back, midfielder, number 8, number 10, number 6. And Mathieu Chouanière can play all those positions. And I think that's going to be something that John Herdman is going to look at. I don't think he has a player as versatile as Mathieu Chouanière. He needs to have a very good camp, though, because
I agree.
I think he has 5% chances of making it, but he does have a chance.
But don't forget, there's not really a backup to Adekugbe, right?
There's Davies.
Yeah, but if you want to play both of them on the pitch, then you have Kamal Miller, who's sometimes at the slot at left back.
But it's a super different profile.
Yeah, exactly. So it's. I mean, I don't really think Mathieu Chouanière will be in Qatar, but I think that if he has a really, really good camp, maybe he'll give a little headache to John Herdman. That's about it, because that left back position is a bit, precarious because
it is.
Yeah. But unless John Herdman prefers Raheem Edwards, that's called also. So who's had a very good season. So
yeah.
So that's something that could be interesting. And don't forget at one point, Christian Gutierrez from the Whitecaps was called also. So he wasn't called this time, so I don't think he's going to be there.
Yeah, it would surprise me.
And he didn't play when he was called either. So
yeah, true. So we'll see.
Okay, so Chouanière and Waterman, very interesting. Hady, I'll throw it to you for our last segment today. It's the women national team. Go ahead, please.
Yes, man, the women's national team. I was fortunate enough to go at the presser. I think so it was very interesting. I was off that day, so I was able to go and to attend Beth Friesman's presser. So first of all, I'll give you the squad that was chosen for that window. For people that don't know, for people that don't know, we have 2 friendlies that were playing against Brazil, both of them in Brazil. So a very strong team of Brazil that's also going through some changes, a very aging squad that's being renewed. So that's interesting. So let's look at the squad that was called by Beth Friesman. So Sabrina D'Angelo, Lisiane Proulx, Kaylin Sheridan, that's the 3 goalkeepers. Defenders, Kanisha Buchanan, Gabrielle Carl, that's back, Ashley Lawrence, Marie Levasseur, another French-Canadian, Ella Oti, Bianca St. George, Shura Yeka, Shalina Zadorsky in midfield, Jessie Fleming, Julia Grosso, Quinn, Sophie Schmidt, Desiree Scott, and Christine St. Clair being
Is listed as a midfielder.
Okay.
And forwards are Amanda Allen, Annabelle Chukwu, Jordan Haitima, Chloe Lacasse, Clarissa Larisi, Adriana Leon, Nichelle Prince, Evelyn Vian. First of all, let me ask Eve, any names that surprised you? How many names surprised you? Because I think we were very surprised.
Yeah. You know, a lot of the players who have been called up, who we don't recognize. We don't recognize Annabelle Chukwu. We don't recognize, you know, Ella Ati. We don't recognize Amanda Allen. They are all either from the recent U20 or U17 World Cup. They are very young players. They are, I believe, all born 2005. So these are really like future potential national team regulars that Bev Priestman wants to get a look in, similarly as she did like with Simi Awujo in, you know, the friendlies against Morocco and Argentina and Australia. So, you know, not a big surprise, but obviously, you know, Canada did not do very well at the U17 World Cup, unfortunately. They got knocked out in the group stage and they didn't win a match. But certainly some players did impress, and obviously Bev Priestman had her eye on them. So I'm really, really curious to see what these players can bring. Unfortunately, I really don't know them because they are so young. They're not even at NCAA level yet. So really, really curious to see, you know, what kind of, if they do get minutes with the team.
You know, she said something in the presser, Bev Priestman, that's very interesting. She said that those players are players that have been in her radar for quite a while. So she's very interested to see them, you know, join the first team squad. She also said about Ella Oti saying that she's a left back and it's very hard to find left backs in the Canada program. So she made sure to specify and to underline that, which seems, you know,
like a hint to the coaches up there.
Yeah, and also a hint to Ella Oti saying you have a chance, you have a big chance to be there. One thing that I find very interesting, by the way, guys, she's I think the niece of Merlene Oti. I don't know if you guys know her. Merlene Oti is one of the greatest sprinters in the history of the Olympics. You know, it's someone that I, you know, when growing up that I watched a lot.
Yeah.
Really a lot. In the 90s, she was the best sprinter in the world. A Jamaican sprinter. So I don't know. When I saw Oti, I was like, is she? And yes, she is. So,
oh my God, no way.
So she's, cool. I think, the niece of Merlene Oti. So for people that are older like me, you should you should maybe know Merlene Oti. But also, Beth Priestman said a lot of things about these youngsters, saying that she wanted to see them in the midst. She also said that the other players, the other young players, Jade Riviere is still recovering from an injury. Jade Rose, Awujo, those players are still playing in the NCAA, so she's not able to call them back. And I think she's looking at Canada as being, she's trying to have a wide net, and she's trying to see Canada as being a team that's going through some sort of transition. Yeah. And let's look at some stats that I took here. This is Beth Priestman since she started. That's her competitive record: 17 wins, 10 draws, and 5 losses. She had 50 different players invited to camp, 38 players that played a game. And I think that that's very, very interesting. Yeah. I remember maybe 2 or 3 years ago, I had a few guests on my show when I had a French show on Canadian football. And we were talking about the Canadian women's national team. And most of the people were saying, oh, you know what? We're not really good anymore. You know, the golden generation is gone. We don't have any future. This team is regressing. They're not going well. They're not doing well and everything. And I think that by doing what Beth Friesman is doing right now, she's showing to people that we're not done yet.
Yeah.
We do have a good generation of players coming in, and will they be as good as their predecessors? I'm not really sure, but at least there are players that are going to be able to raise that flag higher and higher. Something also that she said, and I want to hear Sam, I want to hear you on that, because I think Beth Friesman said something that's very, very interesting. She talked about the midfield, and she said, I love the chemistry that I've seen of that three women midfield of Christine Sinclair, Jessie Fleming, and Julia Grosso. And she said that unfortunately I wasn't able to play them a lot together. But do you think that midfield could be the midfield to start in the next World Cup? If you look at the profile of players, Christine Sinclair, I don't need to present her. Jessie Fleming, that's mostly a number 10, and Julia Grosso, that's between a 6 and an 8, with of course Quinn. That will be able to be there. Does it look very interesting to you?
Yeah, it does, and you see it often. These strikers who start to lose their step, but have a very good vision and still are able to contribute. That sometimes they'll drop a bit deeper in midfield. We saw that with a lot of players. One that comes to mind is Wayne Rooney, when he was close to the end of his career, was playing much more as a midfielder and did pretty well. So I don't see no reason why Sinclair couldn't play that. What I'm wondering is how many minutes is Sinclair able to give? So you'll always be looking at substitutions, and that's that, because I don't recall her, for the national team playing a full games for a while.
But they've mostly been friendlies for a while.
True. That's a fact. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it's been friendlies, and don't forget that we have 5 substitutions now. So that gives you a bit more leeway in your substitutions. You don't have only 3 where you're wasting a substitution for her. So I think you can play with that too.
Kind of feel bad for Quinn, because the performances have always been there.
Yeah.
To say, but
she'll be here.
But you know what? For the rest, I think that it's an interesting midfield. It's a very dynamic midfield with Fleming, Grosso, and Sinclair. A very nice mix of experience and youth. So interesting, very interesting. But I'd be curious to see it now. Is it going to be the World Cup, the midfield for the World Cup? All depends on the performances that they'll give. But it's definitely very interesting.
And what's very interesting also, that I'm sure a lot of people said, but will Christine Sinclair be here? And you know what?
Who said that?
Because we always thought that she was going to retire, right? But
I stopped thinking that.
But I'm going to show you a video of Christine Sinclair winning with the Thorns, and I apologize to Gail.
I've been told I'm not allowed to swear, so so I'm announcing it here. I'll be back next year. To win a 4th one of those, and fuck Seattle.
Man, she's about to be 40, and look at her motivation, man.
Oh yeah,
it looks a bit like it's the film with Leonardo DiCaprio that he's working in that bank.
The Wolf of Wall Street.
Oh yeah. It looks like that scene, man.
Oh Lord.
Oh wow. No, she's awesome. Christine is awesome, man.
She is awesome, and I'm so happy that she's going to be here. I thought that we would be in a post-Christine era next year for the World Cup. But if she plays in midfield, I feel she can't play up front anymore. That's for sure. But in midfield, she could be very interesting. So
yeah.
Let's wait and see. And see.
No, I'll be curious to see like how she gets used. I think these friendlies versus Brazil would be a really good barometer of how effective that can be.
Yeah, exactly. But you know what? Christine Sinclair is the reason why we were able to see her in midfield, and that's something that Beth Friesman also addressed, saying that the offensive players, the other offensive players have improved a lot with their club and have shown that they're able to score goals. And I don't know who she was pointing at, but I'm going to give you one stat, guys. Just one stat. Evelyn Vian,
I knew it.
scored 21 goals in 26 games in the first division in Sweden and added 10 assists during that year.
That's pretty healthy.
Yeah, it's
she's second. She's second in goals scored behind, I don't know who has 22.
Oh my God,
goals.
there's somebody with more goals.
22 goals, so one more goal. But she's also second in assists. With 10 assists, and the first one has 12. So when you look at these kinds of stats, you're like, why doesn't she have more than 70 caps with the Canadian national team? But at least she has a chance right now to show what she's all about, and I think it's going to be very interesting to see her win that starting position that I think should be hers.
Yeah, most definitely. Yeah.
And I'm sure, Eve, you noticed not a lot of center backs in that squad, right?
No, definitely not. No, definitely light.
Priestman surprised me, and I'm sure you're going to be as surprised as me.
Okay.
She said that Shura Yeka can play center back. Yeah, that's exactly the kind of reaction I had when she said that.
Well, Nasi told us that Lassie could play left wing back. So
this is true. This is true. No, I won't write something off until I see it.
Yeah,
exactly. I agree. So it's going to be interesting to see her also play as a center back. And lastly, one last thing on Beth Friesman. She talked about Janine Becky not being a part of that team. She said that Janine Becky, because of her move from the WSL to NWSL, has been playing for 15 months straight, and she needed a break. So she was going to give her a break because they talked with Janine Becky, they talked together. She really needed a breather.
Yeah.
Even Rian Wilkinson, and that we congratulate, by the way, for winning the NWSL title with the Thorns. Even Rian Wilkinson didn't choose her as a starter most of the season. Sometimes she was on the bench because she was completely tired, and exhausted. So, any thoughts on that, guys, before we wap up?
No,
I like it. It's healthy.
Yeah, it's interesting.
It's a good approach. And I think it's important. I think it's great that like Priestman and Becky were able to like have that discussion together. And
for sure.
And I saw that Janine Becky had tweeted that out herself, like, that it was like she was able to have that dialogue with the coach, and that was really valuable and important for her. So no, I like it.
It's a bit of a similar situation to Vanessa Gilles too. I think she's not 100% ready. She could have been there, but she decided to just heal up 100% to be sure that going forward there was no setbacks on her injury. So very sensible coaching by Bev Friesman. I like it. Really
I like it too. I like it too, guys. So the two games, one on November 11th. Another thing
Friday.
To do on November 11th.
Wow. Okay.
So it's
busy
going to
day.
be a very, very busy day. And the second one will be on the 15th. So I think it's going to be Tuesday, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, it is, because it's my birthday.
Oh, nice.
Really?
Okay.
Yes, we're going to play on my birthday.
So Hady, now you need to remember that, right?
You need to remember that.
You need to, I think.
Yeah, so that's it. That's it for me. So it's a very interesting squad, I think. For
Yeah. No, I'm beyond curious, really excited to see them.
Yeah.
I think that's it for us, guys. Almost 2 hours. It's been a long one, but there was a lot to talk about this week. For those who are looking for award-winning segment, social media, it will be back next week, and we're gonna be back next week too. So until then, guys, everyone take care, and you can visit our Patreon page, patreon.com/TBIR Montreal. And we want to give a shout out to Milan Weekly Pod, who teamed up with us. Until then, guys, take care, all the best, and have a great week.